everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have a guest for you guys all the way from New York. That's right, New York. She's our first ever guest from New York, by the way, right? And probably our first American guest as well. This is Hamna. I call her Hamna the Creative. Okay. She's a games designer and just generally, actually, quite a good artist as well. And we're going to talk about all of those things. She works for a brilliant non-profit company. So, Hamna, welcome.
Hi, Lazo. Thank you for having me here. So, what are we talking about?
Everything. Right. Do you want me to start us off? Okay. So I want to talk about your actual the games that you design because I was very intrigued. That's the first thing I remember talking to you about. So I wanted to know how you started making games, how someone else could do that potentially.
So I started making games because of my job, actually. So the nonprofit I work for, we work in public schools, and so we provide care services for kids, kids whose parents can't afford babysitting and everything. So what I did was, and I've been working here for like 3 years now. I was tired of teaching those poor people like STEM and math and logic and deduction and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm going to do games with them. So I started playing games with them. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to make games. Maybe that's going to be more interesting for them. Little did I know, like a year later, I'm here making games for myself. And I have to say, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. It's like perfect bit of like art in it, a little bit of coding. It keeps me happy, it keeps my mental health in check. That's how I got into game design. I took these classes, learned how to code, 2D games, 3D games, and then I took these sessions with my mentor, which was like I joined a session for 3 months, I make a game with a team, I release it, and then I did that twice, and now I'm at the point where I'm a game publisher with Apple for it. So like I have like a developer's license. So essentially anyone could come to me and be like, hey, can you publish our game? And I'd be like, yeah, because I'm an Apple developer in that way. So that's where it's at right now. That's how I got into games. What was the second question?
How other people could get into it.
How people could get into it. It depends what they want to do with the games, right? I keep saying this to people. There's so much to gaming. Gaming was the top billion-dollar industry during COVID and post-COVID, actually. It makes more money than music does. In a lot of countries. Not all over the world. How you could get into games is you should know what you want to do. Do you want to do the coding? Do you want to do the music, the art, the project management? Because essentially a game, like any other thing, is a product, right? It has multi-facets to it. So all of those get together. You can't just make a game. Yes, you can. A lot of indie game developers do that. And I've worked with a lot of those in game jams. A game jam is essentially you come together for 24 hours or however long the period is. And what you do then is you make a game with those 2-3 people you're teamed up with. You don't know them, ideally, total strangers. You would code a game, add some art to it. That's it. 3 days, a game is out. Whoever wins, wins. But essentially, the spine of a game is coding. And it really depends what engine you want to use for it. And there's basically 2 engines out there. Unreal and Unity. And they both have different programming languages. So essentially, whatever you want to learn, whatever works for you more, you can make a game using both of those engines. And yeah.
Right. So someone like me, who specifically likes the creative side of it, I want to design virtual worlds like those sci-fi movies that you see. What would your advice be on that front?
I would say learn Cinema 4D if you already don't know it. I'm pretty sure you know it, right? Once you learn Cinema 4D, just make whatever you want to make. I know like people expect complicated advice for this, But it's really as simple as make whatever you want to make and then put it out there for the world to see. Whether it makes it or not is not for you to decide. Virtual worlds are such a complicated topic right now, especially with them selling for millions of dollars as NFTs and whatnot. So if you really want to, get into the market right now would be the time because no one really knows where it's going. No one knows if a virtual plot of land is worth more, if a house in the Hamptons. I would say a virtual plot of land is worth more money right now.
Isn't that okay? Isn't that actually crazy though? Because listen, me and you, we're '90s babies, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
So as we were growing up, the internet came into our lives. The reason I say that is because me and you can appreciate both sides. Now, some people born in the 2000s, we've already been introduced to electronic devices as soon as they opened their eyes. Whereas me and you saw the massive brick phones, the indestructible Nokias. Yeah, you can kill people with those Nokias, by the way.
Kill someone. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've also now we're seeing everything else like MacBooks, iPhones, whatever, right? How does one fathom that a virtual world could actually be worth more than a real life home in the Hamptons?
The thing with virtual lands is we grew up as millennials, right? So it's a foreign concept to us. But Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Y, all these generations, they're like
She won't leave me alone. Kitty,
Aww.
hi,
He's like,
that's Hamna.
I don't want attention.
Look at her, look at her, she's so pretty. Oh yeah, she sings. Oh, let's go. She's making so much noise. I'm so sorry, carry on.
I don't
I'm not
hear
even
her.
gonna edit that out. I'm not even gonna edit that out. Kitty just made an appearance.
They are very tangible. You know why? Because there's no real estate, like real physical value involved. Essentially, if you own a plot of land virtually, Lazo, you could sell it to me. You could sell it to someone in like Iceland. No one can, that whole concept of ownership that we grew up with, own a plot of land once you've made it in life so you can like die in peace or something. That doesn't exist anymore. What I am concerned about with all these people getting all these tangible items, you don't know where all of it is going to go, right? NFTs, everyone's making goddamn NFTs right now. I don't think a lot of people understand the concept behind NFTs and why they exist, or the concept behind virtual plots of land, right? NFTs exist because essentially they're like this point of trade. You can use an NFT to get into this exclusive concert, right? But in originality, if you make money off of it or not, that is a big risk. A lot of people I know bought NFTs, they're not making shit. They really aren't. A lot of people that are being promoted via social media, right? They're making millions. So essentially, I feel like the pre-sale behind an NFT, owning it, and how big the hype is around it is what's making money for NFT owners right now. Other than that, there is no value to NFTs as much as like people would like shoot me down for saying this, and I'm a nerd myself. But if you look at it logically, that exclusive ownership is what NFT is, because everyone's trying to decentralize the web, right? But it's not going to happen in a snap. It's going to take its hot minute.
Is this a sense where scarcity is rarity because there isn't that much of it, and once you make it, it's not like a Rolex that you can constantly duplicate. So therefore, if you have a particular NFT, it is one of one. Is that part of it?
So ownership is central to it. Yeah, it's this whole concept of you being the only person owning one thing in the whole world that's unique to you. That's just human nature. I think NFT artists are just exploiting human nature because people love to be unique. Oh, I'm rare. I'm unique. I own something no one else does. Technically, you don't. A million other people own things now that you thought you owned as well. So they're really banking on that concept of an NFT. All these musicians getting on board with NFTs right now, I forget their names. Damn it, it skipped my mind. But a lot of musicians are buying NFTs right now, especially Bored Ape and whatnot. And as ugly as Bored Ape NFTs are, musicians are doing that for exclusivity. A few weeks ago, NFT NYC, a convention happened. Tickets were sold out before the convention went live. So you could get access to NFTs. You had to take those NFTs and, you can use it in the future. What the future beholds, no one knows. It's just all this hype around it. Essentially, no one has pinned it down yet, which is why I feel like all these people trying to be like, hey, we're going to open a consultancy. We're going to do NFTs. Bro, what are you going to do with NFTs? Who are you, will.i.am? You bought an NFT and now you can only let exclusive people in the concert? will.i.am can do that. You can't. You're just risking your money on it. And if you have money to risk on it, great. Go for it. But if you don't, you gotta literally sit down and see where this is going.
I got a question. Does this feel like a very first world development? Like outside of the West, outside of progressed nations, would anyone be sat down trying to sell and buy these things? Is it that here we're so comfortable that we give value to anything and everything we feel like, whereas if you kind of go to nations where the struggle is a bit more real, that's the last thing they think about.
Yeah. 100%. People are more concerned about water and global warming and paying their rent, I just feel like it is a first world problem kind of thing right now. But also, what's funny to me is the analogy of it, right? Everyone essentially has their own problems, and what's real to us is not real to another person, and vice versa. So all these people going through all these problems, and we're just sitting here like, oh, god damn it, that plot of land sold for 4.6 million. No, I could have, done a bid war on that. There's really nothing you can do about it. It's not your fault you're where you are. And so while you can sit and wonder why this is such a first world thing, at the same time, it's like you have the opportunity to do so, and you should take that opportunity and do what you can do with it. And then what I personally feel like, because I believe in conscious entrepreneurship a lot, I am a big advocate of conscious entrepreneurship. Take it to the places that don't have it. If you feel like there's some place you have access to, another country that doesn't have access to what you do, maybe try to, make a connection, see if they can have access to it. Unlike NFTs and stuff, right? So I'm essentially from Pakistan. My parents are from there. I was brought up there. I got in touch with this really cool person in Pakistan who went to essentially the same college as I did. His name is Zain Naqvi. And he was the first person to sell an NFT in Pakistan, right? So essentially, what I'm trying to do is just, see if I can learn how to make NFTs and talk to him about it, let him guide me with it. But a part of me is also so happy someone is making the conscious effort to move beyond whatever this suggested image is of that country, right? And, so I do always think things like that happen. It's just a matter of promoting it on social media, promoting it in a way that the world sees it and it doesn't just stay on someone's Instagram feed or someone's Twitter. It goes viral in its true sense.
I feel that. I feel that. I think that was a really good answer. So that was really insightful what you just said about NFTs in general, what you just said about the scarcity that comes into it, and we also discussed why NFTs exist more in the Western world than they do here. And also, it should be known, guys, that Hamna said that if I was an NFT, I would probably sell for like 10 million.
Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse
You
me.
said that, didn't you?
I nowhere in point said that. I have a recorded clip of where you said that about yourself. And I knew this would come up eventually. That is why, my friend, I have that recorded clip. So whoever's listening to this, I got proof.
I'm just going to edit around this, and all of a sudden, when you listen to the podcast, there's just going to be me saying that line, and then I'll edit you saying, yes, that's true.
Oh, God.
Let's talk about the risk of cybersecurity. Now, already, there are apps that make you look like other people. So I don't know if you've ever seen, but using the right software, you could actually make yourself look like somebody and send a complete video to somebody else while pretending to be somebody else, basically. And also, in general, we've seen a lot of cyber attacks on companies like Google, WhatsApp, Facebook. This seems to happen quite often these days. So there's a whole new cyber war that seems to be out there. How do NFTs further add risk to cybersecurity, if at all?
So here's my 2 cents on that. I feel like anything that's non-tangible is at risk, right? Anything that I can sit down, put a line of code into is at risk for being stolen or being hacked. And that is why I think cybersecurity is so important. All these media agencies going out there and promoting NFTs, promoting the sale. Sometimes I just sit down and I'm like, what are you going to do when someone hacks your information systems? Like, you practically have no power over it unless you have someone who's really good at cybersecurity with you, which is what these big agencies do as well, right? And that is why I actually never got into NFTs, like buying NFTs or crypto yet, because I feel like with the amount of data leaks from Robinhood, Voyager, all these apps that are being used to buy crypto, buy NFTs, what do you personally know about cybersecurity enough to be like, hey, I buy an NFT for $5, tomorrow it sells for 5,000, you get hacked. Your information is stolen, your NFT is gone. The fuck are you going to do about it? You can't do anything. And if you can't, and if you don't know enough about cybersecurity, what are you going to do? You're going to lose $5,000? That's it? Like, that's my main argument over here with people who are just buying relentlessly all the crypto they can. Oh, it's 5 cents. It's going to be 10 cents tomorrow. Great. But what do you do when your wallet gets hacked? What measures do you have in place? You really don't. People don't even know about it. They're like, yeah, we lose the money. Sure. I mean, if you got money like that laying around, good luck with that.
I think for the most part, people don't even think about it that deep of a level. They just don't want to miss this wave of crypto and NFTs, and they want to get on it. But I think, in a sense, you've already missed the wave once. I said it before, in it, scarcity is rarity. So when Bitcoin first came out, or when it was one of the main pioneers, everyone these days wants to give you a form of crypto. So it almost becomes, the more there are, the less likely you get for that blow up success. You know what I'm trying to say? But another thing, you talked about the cybersecurity with NFT or with crypto, but even your bank accounts are on your phone now. Apple Pay. Your driver's license might be downloaded. For example, when I travel on the train, I've got my rail card on here, and my iCloud is on here. That means not just all my stuff, my whole podcast. So cybersecurity in general is really now more important than physical security, because we're seeing cities get safer in general. So barring major catastrophes and shit that happens politically, places are getting safer, but the internet is getting more unsafe. And we are starting to live more and more in a risky world online. That's what you're basically saying.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. And I don't feel like it's something you should be scared of. I think it's something that people need to educate themselves about. Like, stop being, stop stepping away from it. If you're going to get an NFT, go learn about cybersecurity. It's okay. There's no big deal in that. Go educate yourself. You're not dead yet. You still have the ability to use your brain, learn new things. Go learn about something that is actually going to be a big part of your life. If kids can know how to code Python at age 6, I'm pretty sure, we could give cybersecurity a try. And if we can't give it a try, at least weigh our options. Get a key, or like a physical key or something, right? There's a lot of options out there that are going to present themselves in terms of cybersecurity. Like, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was close to just taking this NYU course on cybersecurity. I even enrolled for like a hot second, and then I was like, nah, like, I gotta finish my art, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Maybe another day, but it's worth looking into. Whoever wants to do crypto and NFTs, keep an eye out on that. And even though your bank account information is out there, right? I'm in New York City, so we have all these credit agencies that monitor your credit score. They get hacked every 2 minutes. At this point, it's not, the fact that your information is out there. It's the fact that how well you can bounce back from your information being leaked. What can you do about it? With banks, you're insured. Someone steals your money, you're insured. With NFTs, there are no rules and regulations in place. It is so new. There's no laws. Like, if Mark Zuckerberg can go into court and drag a court case for years because there's no laws in 2021 regarding the specific things he's in court for, good luck with NFTs. There's not going to be laws about it for a while.
Yeah, Mark is a bit of a slippery guy. I think he's a bit of a Teflon Don, kind of like Bill Clinton and John Gotti. They were also called Teflon Dons. Little tangent that I love to go off. I always go off on tangents. And you've known me 2 minutes and you can already tell. Now, my pushback would be to people like yourself, I would say just go for it. Go with the change, go with the flow, learn something new. The more skills you have, the more valuable you are. And secondly, you touched on art. Are we going to see a piece of artwork at any point today on the podcast? Are you scared?
Look, my artwork is very valuable. I do take payments in Ethereum. So to send whatever you want to send, and my art is right here. I'm joking.
See that, guys? She is sketching right now. And my challenge to her was that by the end of the podcast, and I don't know when the end of the podcast would be, we've been going back and forth for a while now. I love this topic. But I'm just hoping that by the end, that we can all see a little bit of artwork. We're going to collaborate anyway. Remember, we're collaborating anyway on the cover for that.
Yeah. I am making art as we speak. I have ADD, so what really helps me ground myself is doing something. Making art with my hands is really gonna let me put my thoughts together. Basically, that's how I even started making line art. I was away with my mom in Frankfurt, and I was just lying down in a random ass garden, and I just started drawing on a tiny ass sketch pad. And I was like, that's actually not bad. Fast forward however many years later, I think a decade later at least, I'm 27 right now. I'm making this line art, and it wasn't until this year that I actually had the courage to do so and put it out there. Because it's always so scary. Not only is it scary to put your artwork out in the world, but it's also scary for me because it's like with ADD, I have so many thoughts in my head, right? What if someone steals my art? What if someone makes it better than I do? What if, like, my art style is not unique? And having ADD and being an artist is not a great combination.
I gotta push back. I think, okay, so I don't have ADD, but I am pretty sure I have ADHD. Okay? And I know this because of the way I am. For example, if I'm ever in studio and somebody's presenting, I'm never the guy who can just sit there and pay attention to what's being said. I have to get up, I sit back down again, I probably leave the building, come back out, take 10 laps, while at the same time paying attention, funnily enough. But what I was going to say was, I do think there is a level of creativity that comes with it. And I don't actually think it's that much of a disadvantage. Let me tell you from personal experience. Technically, I am supposedly dyslexic, right? I'm doing my master's in architecture. People are always calling me smart because of the things I discuss on my podcast and everything else, etc. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes these labels become more of a hindrance for children. I know they're supposed to be something to be aware about. So if you see a certain learning pattern within a child, you might want to identify it, tell the parents, tell the teachers, look, this child might have certain issues. I respect that, I understand it. But at the same time, the label also makes the child feel less than. I found out I was dyslexic when I was at university, at the time when I was doing my degree, right? What if I'd found out when I was in middle school, as you would say, or high school? I'd probably feel completely different about myself. I probably wouldn't have the same confidence. I don't like these labels. I think unless a child is majorly disadvantaged with this, you can have these disorders and have them on a lower level. Do you know what I mean? So unless you're majorly disadvantaged and they're actually affecting your grades, I don't think there's a point to even tell a child because perception is a false reality, and how you believe and perceive yourself in your subconscious is more important than how you actually are as a person. You tell a child they are unable to do certain things, they will believe you, and they will then be unable to do certain things. I've seen this a lot. I just look, I'm apparently dyslexic. I have ADHD, but I'm doing my master's. I already have a degree. I run this podcast. I don't think the labels are that necessary. I really don't.
So here's the funny thing.
I'm not laughing. What's funny?
No, one of the reasons I got into teaching, right now I only teach once a week, right? And I started as a teaching artist 3 years ago. Why I started and why I work for public schools is because no matter what country you go to, except for like maybe places like, I don't know, Sweden or some shit, public school systems are fucked up everywhere. So I was private schooled in Pakistan. I went to this really nice private school. You would assume they would be more accepting of mental health problems or disorders of any kind. I never actually knew I had ADD until I was in college, which was in New York City in 2017. So my entire life, starting from middle school, which is apparently when I think got this disorder, I've been labeled as a dumb kid. Like literally, I got into a specialty art school. I got like A+ in my A levels art class. But up until I went to that specialty art school in Lahore, which was NCA, I was pretty much the pretty girl but the dumb girl because I couldn't sit still for a reason. I couldn't do anything. I understood concepts, but I fixated on them, right? And I never knew this existed. I was just like, well, art works for me. Everything else doesn't. Let me just focus on something that works for me. When I graduated and I applied for this teaching job, I went to these schools, these public schools. At one point, I was working at 3. And in New York, or like, I'm pretty sure it's in other places too, but labeling kids, as you just mentioned, it's funny you mentioned that. It's big. And right now I teach I manage middle school, right? Which is grade 6 to 8. So these kids are like preteens in grade 6. They're going crazy with their hormones. You know, their bodies are changing. They're learning about life, but then they're learning that they have ADHD or they have depression or they're dyslexic, and they get fixated on it. I kid you not. I literally spent an hour day before yesterday with a girl who had a severe panic attack because she was going through depression. She had ADHD, and someone told her that this really good drawing you're doing, make it bigger. That triggered her. And just because like the therapist she was going to kept telling her, you have this, you can't do this, you have this, you can't do this, a child doesn't know what to do with that. They really don't. They're young, they're innocent. Even though they're like grew up with iPads and information overflow, they don't know what to do with themselves. So she really just sat there like, I'm overstimulated. I can't do this because my therapist said so. And that's one of the reasons why I love my job. It's like I get to tell that kid, no, you're not what your therapist said you are. While I agree you have this attention disorder, you have the ability to use it to your advantage. I feel like people who have ADD or ADHD, they actually don't have a deficit, Lazo. And I could be wrong in this. Call me crazy, right? We have the ability to hyper focus on certain things, certain thoughts, certain patterns. And if you can find a way to use those thoughts and patterns to your advantage, like there's no one in the fucking world who can compete with you. Like I make my lines. I can hyper focus on these lines. It's my way of meditating. It's my way of like coming to peace with whatever I go through life with. But you put me in front of a TV, a football match, right? I will lose my attention and be like, yeah, a ball, 10 guys running after, someone won, someone lost, right? So I do think people who have an attention disorder, it's not a disorder. It's your ability to hyper focus on certain things and then, you know, not give a shit about the other things. And if you are able to know what you can hyper focus on, that is your fucking superpower. I kid you not.
I agree with you. I agree with you completely. Like I said, I've personally had these experiences. And lucky for me, I slipped under the radar because my grades were never low in high school. They were never outstanding, but they were never low. Yo, guys, that is that special New York traffic. You're in New York.
Oh God, yes.
Going back to my point, like, have you ever heard the phrase "ignorance is bliss"?
Yes.
That's that in a nutshell. Like, not to be quite drastic with the example, but if the wife doesn't know she's being cheated on, she'll still go home happy.
Oh, come on, bad example.
Very bad example.
Example.
Let's go back to the school one. If the child doesn't know that he or she or whatever else is dyslexic, then it's not going to affect them. And I'm sure I've been dyslexic my whole life, but here we are. And I had the ability to believe in myself and push forward. And even if, like, think about it this way, right? Two kids in class, both of them struggling on the same thing. A teacher comes over and says, oh, well, you're struggling because you have dyslexia, but then says to the other one, oh, just keep trying. You see what I'm trying to say? It's like one of them gets this normal reinforcement, and the other one is told, yeah, you're meant to struggle. And
okay, I disagree here.
Do you? Okay. Fight me.
Okay.
I'm just playing. Go on.
So here's the thing. The whole concept behind diagnosing a child with anything they're struggling with and like putting a label to it, the naive concept behind it is you're able to identify it so you can get special attention, special skills, and the tool set you need to go out there in the world and cope with those skills, right? Certain people really don't know how to do that. And I think this is where the education system lacks its goddamn fucking nerve, where it's like they will identify the problem, right? But they treat those kids as like, not that they need extra tools or they need a different set of tools, as like someone who's just slower than the other kids. And there's, rules and regulations. There are paraprofessionals out there who are there for that task specifically. But where I think a lot of education systems fail is where instead of making them feel like you need a different set of tools to cope with life and to learn things, they make the kids feel like something is wrong with you. And that's on the education system. That's actually not on the diagnosis, the what? Diagnosis process? The diagnosis? Diagnostic? The blah, blah, blah?
You're doing great. Don't worry about it.
So, yeah. That's where I disagree with you.
Okay, it's fine. You can disagree. Okay, so let's not deviate too much from what we're actually talking about, though, because we are talking about creativity. But you are a teacher as well, so I guess this tangent was to be seen. I have a very specific question. Why line art?
Why line art? If I had a penny for every time someone asked me that damn question.
Yeah, that's what answer it.
Why line art? Interesting. Do that. Invite someone on your podcast and then send them into an existential crisis by asking them why do you make the art you do make? Why?
Yeah,
Why do you
I'm doing it right now. Like, come on, do it.
Why line art? I guess it goes back to the fact that I just sucked at drawing. I used to make drawings in grade 6, in grade 5, and I was so terrible at everything else except for a few things that my art teacher, and mind you, she actually told this to my mom when I was at NCA, because NCA is like, it's supposed to be a good art school. You can't just get into it. That art teacher went up to my mom and said, I always thought Hamna all these years never drew herself and you made her drawings. And that is why I was like, well, this kid can't really do that much. Her mom is making her drawings for her. It takes a lot for someone to come up to your mother and say that. But at the same time, it's like, what the fuck, bro?
Where the fuck does she get the balls? So, where'd you get the fucking balls to say that?
But it's been my life experience with teachers. I fucking hate teachers, except for like maybe 3 teachers in my entire life. I have hated all my teachers because they would always be like, Dan, you're the dumb kid in class, instead of being like, here's how you can help yourself, or here's how we can help you. This goddamn art teacher that us came up to my mom and said, we always saw you did her art. We didn't know she was actually talented enough to end up at a specialty art school.
I swear to God, I've had the same experiences. I wasn't allowed to take art in my year 10 and year 11. Actually, that was for behavioral reasons. But they didn't let me take art. But I remember in science, they wouldn't let me take the higher level papers. So I don't know what it's like in America or in Pakistan where you studied, but you have your grades from A to E, basically.
Yeah.
They have foundation and they have higher. My teachers in high school would not let me take higher science. So do you know what ended up happening at the end? I bothered the guy so much. He said to me, all I can do for you is, if there are spare papers in the actual exam, you can have a higher paper. And if not, you can't do it. We're not changing your grades. So I, like you, was a bit labeled and called dumb. And then, not to flex too much, but got myself a degree in architecture, doing my master's right now. So they thought I was stupid, but they look stupid, etc. Even this one other teacher in college. So quick story time, right? So we have a system here called UCAS, and UCAS UCAS updates your grades officially, and colleges see it and accept you or reject you, right? My UCAS didn't refresh, so I almost didn't get into the Manchester School of Architecture. So I actually got rejected. I officially got rejected, but I found it weird because I had the grades and more. And then, anyways, fast forward, I had to go get the grades officially from my college. Did you know what this woman had the audacity to say to me? She goes, I don't think Manchester Uni would take you. And I was like, I'm finished. I've got my grades. They have taken me. Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like getting labeled is shit. I've been labeled many times. Like I was saying to her, I was like, I've got the grade. It just hasn't updated on their system. It's not about whether or not they'll take me anymore. I have the place. Just send my grades over. Stop getting just oh my god, just absolute insult after insult. Some people were not made to be teachers. End of.
They're really not. The more I'm not. So I didn't actually go to school for being a teacher or anything. I only did this because I guess like I'm a softie at heart that way, right? Like that's why I even stuck to this job. Like I want to basically make sure that people like me, get helped in any way that is possible for me to do. Like I can't change the world, but I can make a little bit of a difference in some child's life. And that's really important to me because, I felt like I grew up in a way that being in the family I was, and being a girl in Pakistan, an only child too, by the way, which is
We have a lot of similarities.
hey, I mean that's why we're talking here, aren't we?
All you need is a cat, and then you'll be me. Yeah.
I'm not getting a cat, bro. Mm-mm. I am a dog person.
So bye. It was nice chatting to you.
I completely lost what I was talking about. But
You said you're an only child, growing up in Pakistan, and you're a softie, so you wanna help people.
I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. Good luck with that. So we can move on to the next thing.
The next thing is just your love of art in general, because I've noticed you go to a lot of different exhibitions.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I never moved out of New York City. New York City has such a thriving art culture, right? We have graffiti, we have live art happening on the streets. This one time I was in the train, this random guy sat down, sketched me, gave me the sketch, and he was like, feel free to donate if you like, feel like or not. And, a 5-minute sketch and it being that detailed blew my mind. I love being in the city. There's always museums, there's always exhibits because everyone wants to exhibit in New York City, you know? There's so much going on. I recently went to a cause exhibit and it was free. So all you really had to do was get a time slot. And there you go. You went to go see cause. There's just so much happening around here that you have to be making a conscious decision to not go out and see art. That's how much art there is over here. It's in the subways. It's in the tunnels in the subways. It's on streets. It's everywhere. You literally just have to, open your eyes to it, I would say.
New York is one of the capitals of culture for sure. A place that I definitely want to see, and a place that I'm sure lives up to the hype as well. So you say you don't want to move out, it says everything to say about it. While we're here, the podcast, we got to send some love to Virgil. I mean, he has passed away recently.
Oh, that really hit me. I woke up that day and personally, I don't know that guy. I don't know who he was, but I don't know. It was a different kind of sad that morning, and it wasn't just me. It was random people I knew on the streets, my coworkers. Why I absolutely worshipped his work, which I feel like each one of his bags or sneakers is a work of art, is because he had the nerve to stand up for himself. He did not give into trends. He did not give into fast fashion. He did not at all give into like all these ugly things happening out there. He sat down, he did his art, he made sure it went out in the world, and it was beautiful. It was different from every other trend. He made his own trend. Like, not that many people can do that. They really can. And for someone like that to be struggling through something so tough as cancer, and no one knows about it, and he's still out there living his life, literally telling you to live his life too. It really just like, it I went back to human frailty, human emotions, and it was a tough week for me, because it was like in my head, it was like, when I make it out there in the world, right? I want to like have a whole closet, or at least one thing made by him. What we like made it worse was he passed away from this really rare cancer, and I have cancer in my family. I saw like my grandfather go through it and whatnot, so it was like, I know, it's just, I don't know, it was a sad week for me. It really. There you go, New York City noises in the back,
New
because
York City noises again. I actually, just go off on a tangent. There's do you know that, ASAP Ferg is?
Mm-hmm.
The intros to one of his songs, he goes, I gotta close the window before I record because New York don't know how to be quiet. Literally, I might just keep every background noise in this podcast and people will just listen to it and be like, that girl's from New York. She must be. Nowhere else would it be that loud.
Guys, in his defense, he did ask me to close the window, but me being me, I was like, I need ventilation in here.
Yeah, she was like, I'm gonna die.
Hey, I didn't say it in that way. You're making me sound like a very vain kind of girl. I was like, look, I need ventilation, my friend. I do.
Every second,
I'm not trying
every
to do
day,
that here.
every minute. Hey, it's okay, it's okay. But I feel like when people listen to this podcast, though, they won't actually realize that those horns are coming from your end. They'll just look around and be like, what the fuck is that car?
I can't wait for that. I want to see like how people react to that.
Going back to Virgil, though, not only was he pioneering and able to basically push through boundaries, this was also a man who had multiple skills. So he was an architect. I don't know if he was fully licensed, but he has at least a degree in architecture, the fashion designer, and also just a creator in general. So that in itself shows bravery because it's hard to make changes like that in your life. These are drastic changes. People don't just do one thing and then go focus on something else. Like, and I feel like creators have certain abilities that not many other people do. One of them is a bravery. One of them is actually a bravery to get up and say, I want to do something. And contrary to all of these social norms, I'm going to believe in myself. I'm going to push through. Because most artists, by the way, whether you are a music artist or a painter or whatever, they're broke. And unfortunately, passion doesn't buy you anything, right? But that's the bravery that comes with it. And I've always respected and appreciated that within the creative world. There's very few other industries that people would do these things in because they're scared of a lack of security, so to speak. And I understand that and I respect that, by the way. Like I know the financial difficulties that come with life. Like some places are just so expensive you breathe, you feel like you're spending £50. Like it's just
Fuck, you're telling me about that.
yeah, you live in New York, so there you go. Or even like London, for example, but even Manchester, like I live in Manchester, England.
Oh, come on.
No, Hamna, inflation is real.
Okay, inflation is real, but I kid you not. Manchester has a meal is cheaper than New York City. I was saying that to my husband. I was like, you can get a meal in that amount of money? That is wild to me. If you come to New York, that's not gonna happen. You're gonna probably have to sell a kidney or something.
With that same amount of money, they'll give you a chip. Yeah. No, but like, obviously New York is more expensive. I'd expect it to be. But also, inflation really is hitting now post COVID because of all the money that was printed, all the money that was given out. We went through Brexit here as well, which isn't helping. So what I was saying before all of those tangents was that Virgil is a pioneer in many ways because he was brave enough to go and take a risk. You know, he saw opportunity where many people see failure, and maybe that's why you failed, because maybe success, I think, is psychological. Success is state of mind. And go on, you're gonna say something.
Uh, yeah, 100% I go on that. It's weird you say that. Yesterday I had this my last mentorship session, and my mentor actually said this one thing to me that hit, right? Is like, what the work you do on yourself is the work you're doing for the world, because you have the audacity to bring bring your life, your experiences, your art in the world. You're doing the world a favor by existing, by surviving, by putting your art out, because of out of all the obnoxious things we went through, like COVID, everything, like being so difficult, the pandemic, global warming, whatnot. Artists had the audacity to still be in their homes, stuck in their goddamn rooms, and be like, you know what? I'm going to put my art in the world. I choose to do that. I wake up and choose to bring my love out for everyone else. And I think that is so important. Like, that is one of the biggest things that stuck with me. Whether you make it as an artist or not, I agree that's a mental connotation. But you having the audacity to put yourself out there and making people appreciate that art is it's very brave. Everyone can't do that.
My advice would be the world doesn't owe you jack shit. Get the fuck up and do your work. In the nicest way possible, of course. But I don't know, yo. I'm like that. Like, for example, with this podcast, it's in its early inception. But even then, it's like, it's a commitment to a whole nother degree. I have to arrange sessions, record them, download, edit, export, upload, tell everyone I'm uploading it. Then that's not even including the financing that goes on behind it. Obviously, today is different. I'm at home, I'm not in the studio. And then you have the social media, the aspect, and then the artwork as well. So I can honestly say that a single podcast could actually take near enough days to complete if you compile all the hours. There have been times where after I've exported a video after editing, my Mac has been straight exporting for like 17 hours.
That's the reality behind it.
And no one even gives a fuck. Like, it's so thankless as well. It's like people will look at me and be like, "Oh, you have a podcast? That's nice." And like, I can do that, and I'm like, I hope that's true, but at the same time, I don't know if you'd have the, because everyone downgrades whatever it is that they're not familiar with. So I know people, for example, who say things like, "Oh, look at that person! He's just kicking a ball into a net. Oh, look, he's just shooting a ball into a net." I don't know why people are like this. They disrespect, they violate, they make everything sound easy.
I think that's just a mentality we've been taught, that, and it is with millennials, like more than it does with the generations that come after us, because we, as you said, like a while ago, was like, we saw the whole transition from no internet to phones to technology to now iPad generations. We saw that happening, right? So up until us, there are things that people wouldn't know about because they weren't born with information overflow. They couldn't Google everything. They'd be like, whatever I can read in the book is all there is. I'm going to read more books. Yeah, but that's about it. And that's where that mentality comes from. That if I think it's easy to do, it is. That's it. That's the end of it. And that happens mostly with art too. Actually, I'm going to take that back. It happens with everything. People love generalizing, and that is why I think like appreciating effort is so sexy. It's like, appreciate someone's effort, yo. Someone put in hours and days of work in this. Like, go support it in any way you can. Be kind. Be a conscious entrepreneur. There's really nothing wrong in that. It takes a second.
100%. It doesn't take anything. It certainly doesn't take anything away from you to support somebody. And it's just nice sometimes. I do it all the time. I help people out. I have friends who ask me about this. I'm like, here's how you can do it. Do you want me to help you? Would you like me to set it up? It's life. I think, I don't want to sound corny here, but a life only for oneself is quite empty. I understand the self love and I respect the determination to get it right for yourself first before you focus on other people. But there's also a really nice, wholesome feeling to know you're helping somebody. And you, as a teacher, I guess, could probably agree to that more than anything else.
Oh,
We're
100%.
social creatures. We're not made to live alone. We're not made to like born alone, die alone. That's it. Me, myself, and I. That's not it. I don't like this new Instagram mentality. I really don't. It's not just about you. It never is. It can't be. You're not biologically wired to just live for yourself. You know what I'm trying to say? You're not,
I hear.
right? So I'll just have a little rant about that. But if you have anything else you want to add, let me know. If not, I have another question for you.
I have a whole thing to say about that, but since this podcast, this specific episode is not going to be about that, let's keep it to the whole concept behind self-love is that your cup should be full enough to satisfy you, and then you can pour out of it for someone else. That is it. But you can't be lonely and expect someone else to complete you in certain ways. You have to be complete yourself. So you're not codependent in the way that if someone leaves you, you're out there like, fuck, the fuck am I going to do with life now? You know? That's it.
But the reality is, whether or not you are self reliant, if someone you love leaves you, there's still going to be a huge vacancy in your life. Like, there's going to be a huge gap in your life. So, emotionally, that's not an option. Just before we, what is it you actually said that wasn't for this podcast? What topic were you trying to delve into? I just want to know.
This whole like idea of self-love that's floating around on Instagram and not even Instagram, like pretty much everywhere. There's a difference between self-reliance, independence, and self-love. And I feel like a lot of people are changing that whole concept, and a lot of people are wrong about it in the sense that they're putting the wrong stuff out there. You know, self-love should exist, and so should other forms of love. As a human being, all of those forms of love make you complete. That.
Okay, I agree with that. I respect that. That's fine. No, I appreciate your opinion on that. I would then seamlessly flow us onto a question that I've wanted to ask you. Somehow I've not asked you. Where do you think your creativity actually stems from? Like, what is that creativeness? What is that passion? What separates Hamna as a creative from somebody who works with numbers more or is more into their literacy? What do you think is the fundamental thinking behind a creative rather than someone who doesn't thrive in those environments like we do?
I think those are two different questions. So where my creativity stems from is basically my mom. As I said, I was like a bad student at school. She loved art and she was busy with me. She never really got the chance to make a lot of art. And I have her sketches and stuff, and she was a fucking brilliant artist, right? She used to sit me down, and because I was this hyper kid, she'd be like, sit your ass down, draw this. And me having an attention disorder, I was like, this is annoying. She taught me how to sit down, calm myself down, observe something, and put it on paper. And honestly, if it wasn't for her making me observe all these things, I don't know where I would be. I don't know, because that's the life I've known. We're going to walk down the road, randomly see a beautiful flower, right? She's going to be like, oh, look, that's a blue flower. It's in the middle of all these regular ass pink flowers. Like, small things like that. I think when you observe things, you become a creative. And you become a creative person because that's, and I'm not putting it down into a category or something, but I feel like my view on art is observation. You have the unique ability to observe something that other people are ignoring, and that's what gives you power on those other people, in the sense that, not toxic power, but just that you had the nerve to identify something beautiful that someone ignored, and then you have the power to bring it out there in the world for people to see. And I think that, for me, is creativity, because you're unique in your own way. That's why whatever creativity, whatever art, whatever talent your observation brings in the world is so unique, because it's you. No one else can see through your eyes but you.
That's brilliant. Are you writing a book about it? No, I appreciate that. I really do. Answer the second part of the question, which was, what separates creatives like us from people who, is it because it's also psychological, isn't it? I think it's something to do with thinking with a certain part of your mind. So there is a certain biological aspect to it. It's not just about habits and observing. So do you think there are fundamental differences between creative students, for example, and non-creative students?
So biologically, I'm pretty sure someone can talk about this. Biologically, yeah, we creatives do use a certain part of their brain, and it's supposed to be all chemicals and, you know, that logical biological stuff. For me, it's just that, what let me phrase this. Oh
So
god.
just to be absolutely clear about it, it's the frontal cortex. I just googled it. So for this,
I'm pretty sure it is. I
Lazo
mean,
always
that's
come
great.
through with the answers, man. I got the answers. Kanye said he ain't got the answers, but I got the answers. Sway didn't have answers. I've got answers.
Technically, you don't have the answers. Google just gave you that answer, my man. Like, stop flexing on Google. But on a serious note,
When I edit this podcast, I'm gonna put a smiley face over you. I'm just like, you won't even be seen.
look, I have a smiley face right here in my t-shirt, so it goes with the theme.
Yeah, that's what I'll see. I'll crop that out. Who's that? Who's that music artist who? It's Marshmallow, isn't it? He never actually shows his face. He just has the face on or something.
Yeah, I always wonder how he does all these, like, Marshmallow and Deadmau5 too, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Let's not increase your editing time. Let's not put this podcast to like 30 fucking hours for you to edit.
I like tangents. I have no issue with random tangents about anything going off. Like, I don't, because this is me. I am a tangent. I'm a living tangent, right? So therefore I breathe, but it doesn't make me less of a tangent. So
That's on his gravestone. I am a tangent. I was one.
no, I want to say I am. I like Thanos. Like, I am inevitable. He's like, I am Iron Man.
No, fam, don't go near Iron Man. I mean, I agree. You're like creative. You're great, but Iron Man, he's a totally other league.
I've got his. Oh no, I'm not comparing. I've got his little statue figure. Do you know? Like, have you ever seen those Marvel statue figures? I have a few of them. I have the Iron Man one with the exact scene. So I got a limited edition one of them, and I have a couple of Doctor Dooms, including the little MF Doom one. Do you remember the rapper? Well, no point showing you this time. But yeah. No, but listen, this is much more of a discussion than it is an interview. Do you know what I mean? So what would you want to?
Part, you're not interviewing me. I'm not gonna be 100% famous at. I'm not gonna be legit. Lazo.
Yeah, I don't know what you thought this was. I came here for the New York background noise, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, those sound clips that you can't get anywhere else, for the authenticity
You
of
make
it.
like a soundboard with all your New York backdrops and whatnot.
Oh god.
So I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. Have you finished working on that piece of art? Can we see it?
I haven't finished it. Do you know how long this takes? I've literally just
Just started.
Yeah, it takes a
Wouldn't it
while.
be amazing if we specifically use that for the backdrop of this podcast?
It would be amazing. We could use part of this for the backdrop. Part of this.
Part of this,
Yes.
one of this, all of this, I'm okay with it.
No, definitely. I just started experimenting with something. Like I started wanting to use color with my line art. Because line art is pretty specific. I don't like shading. I don't like coloring a lot yet. By the way, I have a tattoo with a line on it that I got because of my line art.
Really? Was that like a form of self-expression?
Nah.
Nah.
Nah. I love that people, because it is for some people, tattoos is a form of self-expression. For me, it was just a decision. I woke up, I decided to get a tattoo with a friend, walked into a random tattoo parlor, Lower East Side, got the tattoo. She liked my simple ass line so much she got it matching. And this is the girl who I was best friends with in like grade 6. And she lives in Canada, so I haven't seen her after grade 6 until we got our tattoos, like, a week before that. And we have matching tattoos. But, yeah, I got a line on my wrist for my line art. And it confused the tattoo artist so much that poor woman was like, so you're sure you want a line? I was like, yeah, I want a line. No, you just want a line? Yes, I just want a line. So it's just this one thing, right? Yes, it's this one thing. Are you going to take my money and make the line, or like what's going on here,
Do I have permission to keep that in the podcast, or is that more of a little story you share with me?
Yeah.
All right. So my final question to you is if you have anything else that you want to talk about, or if not, it's been a great podcast anyway. Honestly, this has been great.
Technically, that's not a question, Lazo, so you failed at that. Try again. Guy, this is a guy who's making podcasts. But yeah, let's end it on that note. I mean, I don't really.
You want me to follow the societal norms of what makes a question? I want to break barriers. Okay.
Okay, if you wanted to go against that societal norm, you wouldn't phrase your statement as a question.
Well, you know what? Well, you know what? Let me just ask, or let me just say to you, this has been a brilliant podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and honestly, would love to have you back on. So, thank you very much for coming on. I love all the New York background noise. The vibe has been immaculate. First official guest from America, all right? That's brilliant. Straight out of New York, New York, okay? I'm going to go listen to some Frank Sinatra.